Hey guys, so we've got this is a 20-minute game against an opponent rated 690, and I'm going to play the Caro-Kann against e4. So we're going to be looking out for what are the typical issues that you see with players around the 700 mark, trying to get to 700. Now if takes and I recapture, okay, that's a decent move. Okay, I might have to get my light square bishop out. Takes, he's not going to take back. If I play my knight out, that's inviting e5, and then my knight will have to come around probably here, which maybe isn't too bad. I think I might just go for kingside fianchetto. That seemed to make sense. Alright, that's another defender on there. Let's go for this now that this pawn's undefended. Moving the bishop there has blocked off the queen's defence of that pawn. Okay, now the knight defends, so I'm going to pin the knight, which means that this pawn is still effectively hanging. So if my bishop takes, knight can't recapture because the queen will be lost. So a fairly solid start so far for my opponent. Okay, he's developed his final minor piece. This is good, this is move 6. So he's actually on track to complete development in the quickest possible time. But now can I just take this pawn? Attacks the knight. Need to be careful that there's no kind of discovered attack on the bishop. So if I was to take there, if this queen could move, or the bishop could move with check, then I'd have to deal with the check and then the queen could take my bishop, but I don't think that's possible right now, so I'm going to go ahead and capture that. Threaten this knight. This knight can't move, it's pinned. It's a very basic tactic there. And it means I've got 2 central pawns compared to white's 1 central pawn. Bishop's really got nowhere to go. It can't go to any of these squares, can only go back. So if I take this knight now, then he's going to have to recapture, because it comes with check, he'll have to recapture with the b pawn. However, I do end up with a bit of a hole there. Now, is that a good trade-off? I've also got this, maybe e5, like hits this bishop, and the bishop's undefended. Bishop can't take because then bishop takes, and that's a nice move because it gains space in the centre, puts pressure on white. Should the queen ever move away? Because you see the knight's still pinned because the queen's moved here. If the queen moves, breaks the pin, I might just be forced to take the knight, because then I'll have 2 attackers on that square and only 1 defender in the form of this bishop. Let's go for that move. Again, knight can't capture there, knight can't capture there. I'm threatening this bishop. Bishop could move here and attack my queen, but then I just hit it with another pawn, really building up some nice space. So white's actually got a development lead at this point, but is at a disadvantage for space. Alright, so the bishop's retreated. Should really bring my knights out. So knight to here, what does that do for us? This pawn's got 1, 2, 3 defenders right now. Is there any sense in capturing there? Don't really want to capture this knight now. I've now blocked in my bishop, of course, with this e5 move. So, bishop can retreat and then stay on this nice long diagonal. So if the king does castle that way, that's an idea. I think maybe just develop this knight as another defender of that pawn. So that pawn's now defended once, twice. Okay. It's trying to kick my bishop away. I can simply retreat to here. Looks solid. There's no value in taking the knight now. The queen just recaptures. Then I've always got this move as well. Just move the bishop back here. 2 attackers on that pawn, 2 defenders. One, 2 defenders, 1, 2 attackers. Ooh, now he's gone for it. Why? Okay, I'm going to recapture with a bishop. He could go there, hit my queen, then I can just bring my bishop back here. If I capture with a knight, I'm hitting this light squared bishop, which is actually the weaker of the 2 bishops. So I'm going to go for bishop takes. Am I? Let's go knight takes. Do I have to be concerned? I've got 1, 2 attackers on this pawn, 1, 2 defenders, that's okay. Let's go knight takes. I like this bishop. I think it may have a future. So now I'm actually a piece up because of that miscalculated exchange. 2 attackers, 2 defenders. Therefore, it doesn't make sense for white to capture the pawn because he drops a piece. If he recaptures, he still drops a piece. So counting attackers and defenders really is one of the most fundamental tactics. Got the opportunity to take that bishop, but I don't think it's critical right now. See, I've got all my pawns, 6 out of 7 pawns are on light squares, which makes this bishop very limited. In fact, that bishop can't actually move right now. So all these squares around it are covered by his own pieces. Ooh, we've castled that way. Okay, that pretty much makes up my mind to take this. Now when the pawn recaptures, it means this knight's not defended. So I'm going to have to think about something to do with that knight. Probably move back to d7. Could then come to here or here. If he takes the knight now, he's going to be down 2 pieces. So he has to recapture the bishop. Okay. Don't want to take his light square bishop, just going to retreat the knight. Also covers this square in case this bishop wants to come down and attack this rook. Then I also have f6 as well to kick it away. I need to think about where I'm going to castle. This pawn's definitely a target, that's undefended, that's undefended. Everything else is pretty much solid. The queen's defending a bunch of stuff. So these are my targets right now. Now queen, then a5 would hit both of these targets. So that's definitely a move to consider. This is a 0-16 game, so if I lose it, I drop 16 points, which I can't really afford to do. Didn't have a great day yesterday or this morning, so... Ooh, takes pawn. Okay, that's interesting because now bishop can't recapture because it's pinned by the queen. So I have to recapture with the pawn because it's attacking my pinned bishop. There's not much I can do there. Okay, and now... Still, this is a plan. Just think about bringing my knight out, castle probably kingside, then start an assault up the queen side of the board. Queen and a rook are on a light diagonal, so there may be ideas here, like knight to here. Should this pawn move, there, pawn pushes, so it's not deadly. Still thinking queen a5. I'm a piece up now, so I can look for trades, but still I haven't completed development. I haven't got my king safe at this time. Ideas is why I got bishop to there now gets better because my pawn structure has been broken up. Okay. So I can capture if queen takes. I've got queen f6 to defend the rook, or even knight f6. I think that makes sense. Queen can't come in here, so there's no check ideas there. I'll propose a trade of queens, which white should decline. This pawn's undefended, I'm attacking that, and also this pawn behind the queen should the queen move. And that then also threatens queen a1 check, drops this pawn as well. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so the queen has retreated. I can now grab this pawn and threaten check on a1. But I can't, because if I take that, white has bishop b5 check, which drops my queen. So that's not an option. So I'm going to develop my knight out now. Then castle my king to safety. It's behind these light squared pawns. White's got a light squared bishop, so have I. It's defended, currently defended. Okay, that's defensible by the knight. I think capturing here would not be good because it allows me to get my rook onto a completely open B file. Good move. Definitely a good move. Okay, I'm going to castle my king now, which means that the rook is now in danger because the bishop can capture. The bishop was pinned when my king was here. It's now no longer pinned. Bishop takes, just recapture. So my opponent's regained a pawn. Still down a knight. Ooh. Now surely that's not good. Surely that's not good. I take, rook takes. I think I'm safe. Might even have ideas about putting my queen onto this diagonal and force the exchange, because king and queen are in line. There's no real option for that at this moment. Kick the bishop. These pawns are definitely weak. This is also an idea, but that would leave me with a, if we exchange queens, it leaves me with an isolated pawn in the middle, and also opens up my king to the light square bishop. So I think kicking the bishop probably makes sense. Can't see a huge danger from this rook. Can't go there, can't go there, can't go to the back rank. Could go here and have a poke at this pawn, but then he's got to deal with his bishop first. It's a decent game so far. I think my opponent's played pretty well. Kick the bishop again. We'll go for an exchange of queens with a threat of check here. That might be good. There's no checks that I can see that white has right now. I think that's alright. See how I'm hovering before I place the move? Got to respect your opponent. All my pawns are on light coloured squares, right? What this means is that all these squares are unavailable to this bishop. If I take queen, pawn recaptures, leaves white with 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'm going to do it. Now I'm going to have 4 pawn islands, which is not that easy to defend. Okay, I need to watch out for this pawn there. There, attacking this pawn. Or should I just get my king onto a dark square? I think that's sensible. Takes away any checking ideas from the bishop. I like to get my knight onto this square with a fork on these. Okay, he's coming in. Fair play. I think I'm 3 jumps away from that. I can't go there anyway. 1, 2. Okay, here hits the rook. Let's go after this pawn now. All these pawns are undefended. There's only 1 defended pawn. Right, so now he's got 2 attackers on here. Right, only 1 defender, but knight to here now forks the bishop and the rook and defends this. So I think that's a good looking move. He can't grab that pawn because the bishop falls. So he's going to need to move the rook. Probably to here so he can recapture. And then I'm going to be up a whole rook for the ending. Plus I've got these 2 pawn islands and they are also on the sides of the board. So if I can get rid of the bishop, then I should have a very good chance. If I capture the bishop, it also opens up this pawn here. Ooh, that's not a great move. He's just given up his bishop now for a pawn. So again, serious miscalculation, attackers and defenders. I'm not worried about these pawns coming in. Okay. Now my knight's currently pinned. If I can get this pawn up here to a3, it's covering this square, which might lead to checkmate options. Again, he's got this slightly advanced pawn as well. I've got to be a bit careful about that. So how about rook here? He really needs to defend it with his rook. If he does, I'll start the A pawn on its journey up. I'll just push that. Keep the pressure on. Okay, he's coming at me. Interesting. Now push. If he pushes again, I've got rook a6, and then I've got 2 rooks attacking the pawn, and he's got no way of adding another defender to it. Play that. 2 attackers, 1 defender. There's nothing. There's no hope for the pawn. He can't sack the rook. That's just the end of the game. So here what we've seen is, in a couple of occasions, basic tactics of let my opponent down. And counting attackers and defenders, absolutely key one. Okay, so now he's down a rook and a knight for the ending. So I think rook to here should follow. King can't go there, can't go there. Okay, so rook to here now defends this pawn and attacks these two guys here. Okay, I can now grab that. And I'll just capture. White has no pieces left, so... Okay, and I can grab that. Just check for safe squares. You've got plenty of squares you can go to. Alright. So now I think... If I put my rook on here, the king's only got 2 squares. He's just going to be going backwards and forwards. Right, he's got to go... Right, there he goes. He's in check now. And this pawn is safe. And there's nothing to stop the h-pawn from promoting now. And he's got the his avatar there is Mr. Scheibel from Queen's Gambit. You resign now, he says. Okay, let's just be careful. Let's defend the pawn now. Okay, and now, is there a swift checkmate? I'm not sure. Let's keep it simple. Get my rook onto the 7th rank, the king stays on the back rank, and then this pawn just promotes. Okay, go to here, you can go in the corner. Oh no. There you go. That's me playing it safe, eh? Right. Now, operation not stalemate. Check. Good thing is, the king is wide open, so there's nothing that white can do now. There we go, and that's checkmate. Okay, so there we go. Let's just quick review. A solid start. Principled. He's getting his pieces out very well. Knight comes out, pins. Bishop comes out. So this is great. This is move 6. He's got all his minor pieces out. All he needs to do now is castle his king, get his queen off the back rank, and he's completed development in 8 moves. But this move here undefended a pawn and put him on the back foot. Moving the queen here maintained the pin on the knight. Now I attack the bishop. Bishop can't capture. Bishop has to retreat. Now I carry on with my development, retreat my bishop, and this is the first mistake, you see. So he's got 2 attackers, 2 defenders. Did he forget that bishops can move backwards? Don't know. But you've got to scan the whole board. What's defending what? Okay, this is the goldfish technique. Highlight anything undefended, and then so actually loses a whole piece that way. And now I grab another piece, mess up his pawns, and that will be significant. So I have to recapture with the pawn here. This now improves this light square bishop, so that was decent play. Attacks my rook. I have to capture. Propose exchange of queens. He doesn't want that. Quite right. Block with a knight again. And this again was a decent move. So from here, that pawn is actually defended by the knight. It's not, and it's currently defended by the bishop, but as soon as my knight moves away, see, now this pawn is not defended. So this was a very good spot by my opponent. Very good. Takes, and I can't recapture, so I'm castle. But now he goes down the exchange, because as soon as I castle my king, this bishop is no longer pinned, and he made the decision to double up his rooks, but that just drops the exchange. Okay, hit the bishop, propose an exchange of queens, exchange queens, and now it's pretty much a formality because I'm a whole rook up. And there we go with a nice fork. drops another piece that way, and then pawns fall. 2 rooks on 1 pawn. No brainer. He really shouldn't have captured there either. And that's it. And then I blunder my rook towards the end, but it's immaterial. I could simply, I think, have just converted this pawn. There, and queened. And that was just a blunder. Zigzagging up, and then simple checkmate in the corner. So there you go. If you're rated around that level, you're looking at 700, wanting to climb up towards 1,000. Number one thing is counting the number of attackers against the piece and the number of defenders it's got before you go in for an exchange. And the general rule is, obviously depending on the value of the pieces, that if there is an equal number of attackers and defenders, then you will not profit by initiating the capture. If you have more attackers and defenders, generally you can. You have to remember that the king can be a defender, but it can only be the last defender to recapture. Okay, obviously, because it can't go into check. There you go. So, yeah, simple lesson in counting. Okay, thank you for watching. Please subscribe to Chess Boot Camp if you haven't subscribed yet, and I'll see you soon.